Well, good evening. I was just getting into the boat there.
Good evening, folks.
Welcome to Coffee with Pastors with Colin, Murray and myself, and our guest tonight is MJ McKay, Matthew James. Those of you along this coast will can find where he is, but for those of you out and about, we'll find out a bit about him. But Colin, would you like to introduce this young man? Well, before
I would be honoured.
A bit of fess up before we come on here. The twa baldy gets at the top was saying I go in for here, but it was just jealous.
I pray, Lord, that you supernaturally transport some of Matthew James's hair, firstly onto John's napper, and then just a wee bit onto mine, and then blend in the colour. No, but seriously, we're delighted to have Matthew James with us. He's probably our youngest guest yet, John.
Yeah.
Who would be the oldest? Who would have been the oldest?
Oh, now you're asking.
Would it be Ivan Scolino?
How old are you?
Well, I think I kind of looks younger than me, but he's about 75, I think.
That would probably be the oldest.
Okay, as I says, we're delighted to have Matthew James on with us tonight, and thanks everyone for connecting. I suppose I first met Matthew James when he was about 2 or 3 years old, when he just started singing. I was actually a painter and decorator for his mum and dad doing in Gamery. So I've followed his journey from a very young age. So I've kind of followed his singing journey, his career, and I think he'd first CD launched when he was about 10 or 11, doing in the Drill Hall in Gamery, when doing that night place was packed, a wonderful evening. And then, of course, when we planted the church in Portsoy, I think it was a community church at the time, the Station Hotel, we were looking for worship leaders. So we had faith and trust in the young Matthew James, who must have been about 11 at the time, to come in and lead the worship. And then over the course of maybe 3-4 years, he became our main worship leader. We were sort of blessed with a great variation of worship leaders at the time, but with Matthew James. And then he was joined with his younger brother, James Scott, and his sister, Hannah Louise. And that became our worship band up until maybe 2-3 years ago. They were led down to Zion, but they still come back and support us in Portsoy post-lockdown, and pre-lockdown and even post-lockdown have been coming up to Portsoy and doing some worship. So they've been a real blessing to us. They've been a real integral part of our church in Portsoy for a long time. They led the worship in the village station fantastically well for a couple of years as well. So I've got the highest regard for this young man, and for his brother and sister, and for his family as well. So we're delighted to have him with us this evening. So I'll kick off with the questions, will I? I'll kick off with interrogation. It's no, just tell us a wee bit about growing up in Gamery and all the bad things you got up to, Matthew James.
Oh, what are the bad things you got? Well, growing up in Gamery, well, I mean, I've stayed in Gamery since, well, I was born actually. So I mean, I've never really left. But I suppose the main kind of things I got up to was just, well, there's a playing field right outside our house, actually, a big massive playing field right across outside our house. So we just I used to go down and play there sometimes. And yeah, also in the summertime, actually going down and jumping in the harbour is quite a popular thing to do. But in general, to be honest, I just more kind of kept myself to myself, to be honest. I just spent more of my time probably inside playing music and pianos and guitars and stuff. So I was too busy to probably ever get into really troublesome things. So that was fun.
Great stuff. Good lad. Good lad.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you started singing at a very early age. I reckon if you was out your nappies when you first started singing, but what are your earliest recollections of singing the house or whatever?
So I could actually, so I mean, you'd probably actually believe it when I said it, but I could actually sing before I could speak. Like, I don't know how that came about, but I couldn't speak till I was about 3 or 3.5. But when I was 2, like, I do distinctly remember my granny having a little blue piano in our house. There's a little toy piano thing, but it had Twinkle Twinkle Little Star programmed into it. So she's got a video of me sitting singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, like with that playing in the background. So yeah, that's been. So yeah, I suppose that's kind of my earliest memories. Is kind of just. It's kind of just playing about with pianos and stuff.
That's
and
amazing. I would say it's a Holy Spirit thing, you know. You can sing before you can speak. No,
Well,
great answer.
Here's a fiver for your granny to geese ahead of that video.
that'll be on Facebook tonight, you know. Right. You were obviously raised in a Christian family, but when did you really become aware you had a real musical talent? You're a humble guy, you've never put yourself forward. Ken, the musical talent that would take you from your living room into gospel halls or meeting halls or churches. When did that become apparent, Matthew James?
So I used to. So obviously, if you've got a granny like Granny Ann, you're used to her like recording you singing and stuff like that. So, so she used to sometimes like take videos on my like singing like music playing in the background and that. And she used to sometimes make DVDs and stuff and give them around to like some of the older people in our community, which is quite fine. And but I suppose the first proper exposure that I had to like going out and singing to meeting halls and churches was a few years ago when the Murray Mill Voice Choir came down to Gamery actually.
That's right.
And their choir and like the leader of that, John Buchanan, he heard me singing from up in the balcony because obviously Gamery Curtis got the balcony at the top. So he heard me singing from up there, and then he phoned my granny that to say that actually he heard this voice coming up the top of the balcony, and that he'd like me to come along to their next event and sing along to it. So I did that, and then after that I went out and sung with them for about a year or two, and then I eventually started singing more myself, and then there was a few people said that I should make a CD and sing like an official CD, so that's what I did. So I suppose that's kind of my first exposure.
Yeah. John,
it's good that people encourage other folk to do this.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really good.
Definitely.
Now, I believe you are bullied at school primarily for your faith, but what advice and words of support would you have for anyone who's experiencing what you did and for having the courage to openly follow Jesus? I'm sure it was hard at times.
That was So I did get quite a bit of stick, as it were, in like school, like for my faith and for the fact I sing and for the fact of that, you know, singing's obviously such a different thing, you know, like you've got people who's into football and stuff like that. Like I was never a football kid. I was just, well, I look more like a football when I was younger than a football player. So, but yeah, no, the advice I'd say for that is just because I mean, it took a long time before my friends, before I actually got like a solid group of friends that I was really happy with, and eventually they, you know, accepted who I was. So, you know, to be honest, I would say like the best probably advice there is probably just to try and, you know, sometimes it's quite hard, but try and find like some like-minded people who's like also like, even if you've got a youth group or something like that, try and find like people who's also like Christians as well, and try and like mix with them, and eventually like you'll grow so confident with them that if anybody like starts to question your faith, like you can say, right, you'll be able to, talk to anybody a bit more openly about it. And so, yeah.
Okay, that's
That's
good.
good.
Okay, I believe you were part of Youth Extreme, which was held in Harvest Centre in Banff, under David and Rachel McKay. But tell us a bit about that and how mixing with other Christians your own age encouraged you.
Yeah, so that was actually really helpful, because that came at a time when obviously I'd started school, and obviously, you're no longer I'd started academy, and obviously you're no longer the big school in the big kid in a little school. You're now the little kid in the big school. So that was quite daunting for me. But one of the times my mum suggested to me, she was like, "There's this place down in Banff called Youth Extreme. Would you like to go down and see it?" And I thought, yeah. So I was just to go for that, and it was really encouraging, almost to see that there was people, I could be myself around, and that I could like openly share my faith with them without obviously like getting some slack on that. And eventually, I think that by going there and going to all their different weekly meetings, because they used to have like Bible studies and stuff called Emerge, which I used to go to a lot. So I think that helped me really, really gain much more of an understanding of like my whole faith, really. So and it gave me a chance, obviously, to help that grow amongst other people as well, because we were all kind of getting taught too. So that was really fine.
It was beneficial to you as well as other. Yeah, good.
Well, absolutely, definitely. And I think that definitely helped me a lot as well, knowing that there was that people that I could turn to if ever I needed help in that. And then in a couple of years later, just before David and Rachel left, I actually got baptized there. So it was a really big honor. Yeah, so that was a really, really big honor for that to happen.
I think there was about 10 folk got baptised that evening, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's right. Aye, there was quite a lot of them, actually.
Great stuff. Now, fast forward in a wee bit, but in 2014, you were blessed by attending school for musicians in Nashville, Tennessee. It is Tennessee, there's no another Nashville. How was that for you to go to Nashville, Tennessee?
And that was really exciting, actually, because obviously it just came like, I mean, it was only when I was second year in school, actually, because my granny had this like friend from Peterhead who basically sent across a CD to Ben Spear, who's, in case you don't know him, he's like the musical director for the Gators. So eventually he replied back with a letter saying like it'd be a really, really big honor to have someone from Scotland coming across to the school. So that was really fun. And in Nashville, it was a really, really good experience. Obviously, the Americans just love the Scottish. That's just how it is. And but yeah, I really learned a lot there, like in terms of, because I got taught things like music theory, stage performance, group singing, and yeah, it was a really big experience. It was a wee bit daunting as well, because obviously in Nashville, like even the person who's a hotel receptionist is 100% probably a better guitar player than you are. So that was quite. It was a bit daunting as well, but like obviously when you're around people like that, it inspires you to just push yourself further in that.
Yeah. Did you see anybody famous, by the way, while you were there?
Yeah, I did actually. So I saw a few famous. There was a few famous gospel music faces. Obviously, there was Ben Spear himself there. He was quite big, and he was actually quite a nice guy as well. He's really down to earth. Like he always mixed with us, like when he was in the cafeteria and stuff like that, because obviously it's a big university campus. But I also met a few other like like famous groups over there. It's like the Lefevres and Ernie Haas and Signature Sound, if you're familiar with them, actually. But I actually went to the Grand Ole Opry a few times, and I met. Well, no, I didn't meet. There was people there. There was some of the cast from Nashville was performing there. There was multiple others, but there was like the Oak Ridge Boys. There was Vince Gill. I got to see him perform, and even one of the nights I got to see Carrie Underwood, and that was an awesome. It's really awesome getting to see Carrie Underwood. Like, yeah,
good stuff.
Great time.
Nothing to do with her being a lovely looking young lady. It's nothing to do with that, was it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Right.
I enjoyed it though.
Great stuff. You've already mentioned John Buchanan and the influence that he had, but also James Strange. He came along, and we had them a lot in your early days, John and James Strange, with your singing and leading worship. What did they teach you? What did you learn from them that still stays with you yet? What kind of principles or skills or techniques did you learn from them that still sticks with you yet?
So I'll start with John because I already mentioned him. So with going to the Male Voice Choir, and that obviously, because obviously people sing in 4 parts and they're singing different lines and different harmonies and stuff. So that was my first exposure really to singing with harmonies and stuff, and that's really helped me know how to do that when I've been singing with other people. And also as well, John taught me quite a few techniques. He taught me quite a few vocal techniques and stuff when I was singing myself too. So he was a really massive help with that, and I owe quite a lot to him actually. And the other one was James Strange. So when I was recording one of my CDs with him before, because back in 2016 I released a CD called Reason Enough with him, and so with that one I was actually really quite lucky to be able to be a process of that as it was getting made. For sometimes when I've been recording and stuff like that, I've gotten a chance to hear the chat before, it's all been made up before I've went to record. But with working with James, actually, I actually recorded all the guitar on that album, so I had 2 lots of full recording to do. So I had to record guitar and vocals with that. So obviously, being with him, I got to sit and watch him doing all of it on his computer, specifically a program called Logic, which is a digital audio workstation that basically producers and stuff used to record. Obviously, getting to sing, it was almost when I started actually recording too, it really helped me just know what I was doing, getting to see him. And I still sometimes get some tips and tricks from him when I'm mixing my own stuff too, just to know how to get everything to sit right in a mix. So going into all the nerdy details like the EQs and delays and compressors and limiters and stuff like that. So yeah,
just basic stuff.
Yeah. And also watching him playing piano as well when I was with him. And he's if you haven't seen him, he's
something else.
I could only wish to be that good. Watching him has really helped me. Has really influenced my playing style as well.
Stuff. So they've both clearly had a big impact in your career, in different ways. But they've both been very important and very instrumental in your journey.
Yeah.
Speaking about that journey, can you been able to go seamlessly for the older hymns that you used to sing when you were younger, when you first came to our church, to the more modern and contemporary worship songs? How easy or difficult has that been? Was that just natural for you? And what's your preference? Prefer the older hymns or the newer worship songs?
Oh no. So yeah, that was. It was.
Remember, you're in Gamery before you open on in there. Okay?
Yeah, it's a bit of a cut. It'd be a bit of a can of worms to open. So yeah. So I grew up in the I grew up in Gamery, obviously, where I was kind of used to older stuff. I was kind of exposed to some newer stuff as well, but in general, I kind of tended to sing older stuff, especially because before I started leading worship, I sometimes used to go and sing in old folks' homes and stuff like that as well. And so obviously they kind of know all the older stuff better. But let's see. So when I first started listening to modern worship music, obviously it was a kind of a bit of a fresh perspective, because I mean the older hymns are really, really good, but obviously when you've been quite used to singing them since you were young, like modern worship songs really kind of like, obviously the words are a bit more simplistic, like you don't have the these and thous and stuff. So personally, I find them quite good to understand, and also the melodies are quite simple in them. Some of them can be a bit more like complicated, but in general, I find they're just more easy to like remember and declare amongst people. I think it's important. Yeah, I think it's definitely important to. I think it's definitely important to like keep the older traditions and stuff.
Definitely,
because when you look, there is some gold in that older music, but in the newer stuff, obviously as well. It's like a continuation of that, themes and stuff, but with obviously more modern music. And you can mix up styles as well. You can take an old song and you can revamp it so it's modern. Like on my album No Longer Slaves, actually, and that kind of segues nicely into the next question. But on the album No Longer Slaves, I did a version of How Great Thou Art.
That's right.
So like it had been done by U2. So because I quite like changing up that things musically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
I think
I think it's so
very good. So yeah, so basically the old and the new, there's a place for the all.
John,
absolutely, definitely.
Are you hearing Matthew James clearly?
It's freezing. Your video's freezing every now and again.
But we're still getting the message across.
Aye.
It's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes.
Aye, so
I was gonna say sometimes like the audio's. Sometimes like the audio cuts out for a wee second, but I'm still managing to hear the whole question. So yeah, that's
good. That's good. All good.
Yeah.
No, thanks for that. November 2018 was the launch of your last album, which we've just mentioned just now, No Longer Slaves. Tell us about how you felt at that time. That's one of Irene's questions, so I'm not sure what that actually means. Tell us how you felt at that time.
So that was the first one. Obviously, it was I'd done CDs before, so that was kind of doing the. So it's not the first time I've done that, but that was the first time I'd properly built a CD all the way from the ground up and worked on it and produced it entirely myself. So yeah, that was that was it was exciting. It was also a bit scary because it's kind of going head first into making your own CD. So that can go one way or another. But so I basically did the guitar work and obviously my own vocals and stuff like that. But I got my little brother to play drums on it, and I got my sister to do her backing vocals and stuff. So I recorded that over the course of about 6 or 7 months. I worked quite a lot of it on the summer that year, and I basically had my granny's entire living room under siege. So I had my computer set up, I had my guitars, about 4 or 5 of them, and a bass and my keyboard and other speakers and everything. So it was quite crazy. But yeah, it was, in general, I absolutely love doing it. I learned a lot during that process, and I think it's really helped me for music that I've recorded since then. And it was a big learning experience, but there's a lot of people said it's really resonated with a lot of people, and there's been a lot of good response to it. And it even won an award as well. So back in 2018, we Jeff Howlett basically does a monthly newsletter called Never for Nothing, where he reviews kind of Christian contemporary music and even older stuff like Gaithers and stuff. And that CD managed to get the Independent Album of the Year award for 2018. So that was a really massive honor for that to happen.
Fantastic. Praise God. Amen. Hallelujah. Well done.
Just on that CDs, where can you buy the CDs for those that are listening thinking, I better listen to that?
So if you go on my Facebook page, which is Matthew James McKay, I've got 2 actually. I've got Matthew James McKay, which is my own personal actual profile page, and then there's Matthew James McKay Music, which is my official music page. So if you message either of them, then I can send one of them to you. It'll be £10, and also however much it is for postage as well. So so if you want one, you know what to do.
Okay.
Give me a message. Yeah.
I'm sure there's folk out there thinking, I want to get hold of that CD.
£10 for one, £10 for one, £50 for 5. How's that for a bargain?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Only if you mention Colin Murray's name, you'll get that deal.
Yeah. Promo code Colin and John.
So, what are your ambitions as a young man and a worship leader? Are there any more CDs or recordings in the pipeline? And do you envisage writing your own music?
So I'm actually planning a follow up to the No Longer Slaves album. So I'm planning to record another worship album with my brother and my sister. Maybe actually get my sister on the keys this time, as well as backing vocals, and kind of do the same thing as I did back then. Kind of mix up older stuff with newer stuff, which I obviously really like doing. As far as writing my own music, I've tried it a few times, but it's I've tried writing lyrics and stuff like that, but I had to do ones for my songwriting modules in college. It was only then I kind of realized how terrible I actually am at writing songs and lyrics. So I've written instrumental stuff, because I actually took out my own instrumental guitar EP as part of my college project, which was Creations of Isolation, because I recorded that over obviously the whole first lockdown period. So that's where that kind of got its name from. But yeah, I would honestly love to be able to write more music. It's just something I've always wanted to do, but hopefully it's something I can work on over the next while. Yeah. As well as obviously doing my instrumental stuff too, which I really love. Yeah.
Good stuff. Now, I know you've mentioned already that you play several musical instruments and stuff, but which ones can you play, and which other ones would you like to learn to play?
So Yeah, so the ones I can play right now are obviously guitar, specifically electric guitar and acoustic guitar as well. I play bass guitar as well, keyboard. I've done a wee bit of drums before. I did drums as part of one of my college bands, like for our live performance module. I did drums for that, which was a bit of a challenge, I must admit, because my whole body is not coordinated to play drums. It's just not set up that way. But yeah, so in terms of ones, and I also play a wee bit of mandolin as well. I had a mandolin a while ago, but I sold it, so I maybe like to try and get another one back actually at some point. So the one niche, and it's only kind of got one. It's kind of a one genre as it is steel guitar. You know, like what you hear on like country records and stuff like that. I would absolutely, I'd love to learn to play that. I mean, as much as I know, it's kind of, I like country music, but I don't exclusively play that. So it'd be a lovely thing to have, but it would be like, I don't know if I could get the best out of it all the time. And yeah, another one. I quite fancy saxophone as well. Actually, to be fair, I quite like that actually. Yeah, if you listen to the whole Jerry Rafferty, Baker Street, that kind of vibe, and also like some of the Pink Floyd stuff uses saxophone, so I'm quite into that kind of stuff as well. So,
well, David Gilmour, I saw him playing the steel guitar when they were doing a concert somewhere, a live concert, and I've never seen him play the steel guitar before.
So that was so that's like a lap steel one. So you play that using a wee like slide on your hand, and then so stuff like Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and even the solo in High Hopes. I love that solo. I think that's one of my top 10 solos of all time. High Hopes solo. The steel guitar end of that is something else, honestly.
Well, awesome. I am so impressed that an old partner like me and a young man like you can talk about Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
I'm more hip than I knew.
Yeah, so I'm into quite a lot of the prog stuff actually. I'm quite into Pink Floyd, Pink Floyd, Rush. Another one I'm quite into is Dream Theater as well. So we're kind of delving into some more progressive rock kind of stuff there.
Yeah. So you've lost me there, I must admit. Anyway.
Yeah, but Pink Floyd we can talk about. Yeah.
Well, I'm very strict with Pink Floyd.
So carrying on from the last question there, when your Granny Ann finally joins the Mackay worship band, what role and musical instrument have you earmarked for her, and why would you come to that decision? Come on, Ann, get in there.
Yeah. So I think she's sometimes been the manager, kind of the whole operation at some points, which is sometimes we call her the manager. That's a bit of a Kardashians reference, but she's the granager sometimes. But I think if it was specifically an instrument, it'd probably be the two things she can play are either, believe it or not, harmonica, or actually like a fine tooth comb wrapped in greaseproof paper. Believe it or not, that's actually yeah, that's the two things she can play. So we can get her on that sometime.
Hey, good.
I look forward.
Yes, we do.
Next Floyd station up at Lossy.
Yeah, that's right.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here
Let's
first.
make it happen.
Yeah. Very good.
To me to go right. Kenneth Craig's been a great influence and encouragement for you, especially over the last 2-3 years, as you've been part of the filling stations in Buckie and Lossy, and you've played at Refuel as well. who else has really inspired you and encouraged you in your musical career, famous or unfamous?
So obviously like Craig's been a massive influence, and being able to go up and play with him like during the easing of restrictions over the past few months has been a massive. It's really been. It's really to go back up and just slowly reintroduce myself to the whole playing with other people and worship thing. But yeah, probably I'd say John McCann's quite big influences. Probably I'd say my big famous influence are, well, like in like obviously like non-Christians, like obviously like obviously like John Mayer and John Petrucci and Guthrie Govan and all that, and Joe Bonamassa, and obviously I've got a few others, but my biggest like Christian biggest influence over the past while has been a guitarist called Lincoln Brewster, and he used to play. Well, he used to be actually Steve Perry's guitarist when he was 23. That was years ago. It was actually during an album release called For the Love of Strange Medicine. So he played on the whole tour with that. But he actually left, and well, he became a Christian while he was playing with Steve Perry and that. But he kind of wasn't getting. He's kind of left a bit empty. So he actually left. He actually left there, and he actually like joined a church as a sound engineer, and eventually Integrity Music picked up on him, and he's now obviously who he is today. He's a really, really influential Christian guitarist, and I think he's one of the best guitar players, period. Not even like Christian or non-Christian we're talking about here. He is one of the best guitarists out there for sure. Like, go and listen to him. He can just make a guitar. He makes an example of how he's like, obviously, like, because you don't exactly associate like guitar shredding as such with Christian music. It's not like obviously in a more traditional sense, it's not something you kind of picture going along with it. But he just like what he's done for guitar and worship has just been incredible, and that's why he's influenced me so much. Just like not only in my faith journey, but also like in my guitar playing as well. And yeah, so he's definitely probably I'd say my biggest influence.
And sorry, what was his name? You cut off just when you said his name.
So his name is Lincoln Brewster.
Oh, okay.
Lincoln Brewster.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's really awesome. If you've heard likes of Everlasting God, he's quite famous for doing that actually.
Yeah.
He was quite
Good. Excellent.
2020 has been a very difficult and also a very different year for us all. But we believe that just before lockdown, it was a dream changer for you, apparently. Tell us about that.
Is this one of Irene's, is it?
That's one of Irene's. It makes no sense to me, but it makes sense to Matthew James.
Yeah. So the start of 2020 was actually going really, really well. Like I'd obviously gotten a few more opportunities I'd obviously gotten a heap of opportunities to play like in the Buckie filling station and Lossy filling stations and stuff and all the churches in the Northeast. And I got to go down to see Glasgow and meet probably my favorite guitarist in the world at a concert he was playing at. So that was also a really amazing opportunity. And I was also picking up more engagements and being able to play at more things, and obviously had Refuel to look forward to in the summer. And then in March 2020, that all kind of changed. So I went from all of that to none of that in the space of like weeks, really. So that was quite a tough one, but it actually it was a blessing and a curse at the same time, actually, because I mean, I got to spend some, I think, well-needed time at home with family, which, with going in sometimes 4 days a week into Aberdeen for college, was quite difficult and hadn't done well. So it was quite nice to get the opportunity. But also, I got the chance to, like, obviously write more instrumental music and stuff like that, and that was quite nice. But it really helped me, actually, I think, seal my plans for the future, which in September I was actually supposed to be going away to study music at Aberdeen University, but I think, well, I was actually gonna, well, at first I decided I was gonna like look for a different course because I wasn't too settled on the Aberdeen one. I was kind of looking at other ones, but now I think with the way universities and stuff has been affected this year, like it's been quite a lot of online teaching and stuff like that, I think it's going to be a long time before uni goes back to normal. So yeah, so I've decided to kind of stay with my job right now, which I work at care home in Banff. So I kind of decided to stay with that and also carry on doing my music stuff at the same time. So that's, I think, so yeah, my plans at the end of 2020 were very, very different to the ones I had at the start of 2020. But yeah, sometimes sometimes that happens. And but yeah, I'm really happy with where I'm at right now at the moment. So, and maybe in the future when all this COVID stuff pans out, I might make a return to uni at some point. But because obviously I was doing my past 2 years of HND music at Aberdeen College. So maybe when the whole COVID thing decides to take a break, I might consider going back to uni. But for right now, I think I'm probably just going to stick where I'm at right now.
Very good.
Yeah.
When the COVID thing decides to take a break, I like that. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
I wish it would just take a running jump. I wish it would take a running jump. Never mind, just take a break. But never mind.
It's already taken a break this year, but it's came back after that. So
That's right.
yeah.
It will happen. The future's bright, Matthew James. You have a great future.
Now, away from music, what other hobbies or interests do you have, or is it all
quite a lot of it's music. A few things I've kind of tried and discovered I'm not very good at. So, but a few things I'm into as well is I'm quite a lot into fitness and stuff as well. Like at the start of 2020, I was actually really, really getting into fitness, and obviously over the summer I've done like a lot more walking and running, so I've been able to get myself a lot more fit through that. Through Christmas, it's kind of taken a bit of a break, as obviously it does with everybody, but I'm hoping to get back into it very shortly. Another thing I'm into quite a lot as well is I'm quite into art sometimes as well. Like I used to be really into it, like in second year and stuff like that in school. Like I used to be really into like art and design and drawing and stuff like that. And I'd say like I haven't drawn in quite a long time actually, but I'd say I'm naturally more of a creative kind of person. So to be honest, at school, I kind of leaned a lot more towards like music and art and like English and creative writing and stuff like that. I kind of tended to lean more towards that. I was never really kind of, the academic person. I was more the arty person at school, to be honest.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah.
It's good to have interests out with your main interest,
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely.
It all feeds in anyway. So.
Yeah, I think you like your cars as well, don't you, Matthew James?
Oh yes. I absolutely love them. Yeah.
If you can see it, Irene gave me some supplemental questions, and one of them is petrol head. What's your ultimate car?
Oh, I've got a couple actually. I think my dream car I would love someday is the maybe someday when I've been working very, very hard at the care home, like I would love to buy a Focus RS, like one of the new Mark III Focus RSs in Nitrous Blue, because there was one of my pals before, he used to have them up in, actually he used to play up at the filling station in Lossy, and he had one, and like, oh my gosh, that was the fastest thing I've ever been in. 345 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds. It's a rally car for the road, that thing. But I think my dream absolute money no object car, that's a good question, I think would actually be I think my money no object car of all time, I think, to own would be a Mercedes SLS AMG, the one with like the gullwing doors and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love the look of that, to be honest. But yeah, in terms of a at least half achievable dream car, maybe, yeah, I'd say the Focus RS is probably my dream one. Yeah, I absolutely love my cars though. Yeah, I've actually got a Audi TT outside, so that's my one I've got right now. So
they're not bad. They're not bad.
Yeah.
What would you say to any younger person who may be watching this but doesn't yet know Jesus as their Lord and Savior, but maybe they're searching for something to fulfill their lives, especially during 2020, if we're going through that. So what would you say to a young man, to a young person?
So I would say my journey, like since I became a Christian, it's been quite a crazy one, to be honest. It's taken me places that if you asked me before I became one, I probably would have laughed at you if you told me I was going there. Like I've been to Nashville twice actually, because I got to go in 2014 and 2015, which was a really big honor. And but obviously right now it's kind of like going places you couldn't have imagined before is a bit harder, obviously, with the pandemic and stuff like that. So I would say even obviously, because we're back in quarantine and stuff like that again, if you're interested to, like, if you don't know him yet, I would say just start reading things about him, and even listening to music and stuff, because that's actually what helped me quite a lot, was listening to stuff like Bethel and Hillsong and stuff like that. Stuff that would be stuff that is obviously really, really good music, but obviously it's got that message in it. So that was quite something that helped me a lot, actually, like get into like Christianity and stuff like that. Like when I started school and that, was listening to that music, and obviously when you're listening to it, that kind of themes like kind of start to stick in your head. Like obviously when you're listening to, I'm trying to think, like 10,000 Reasons is quite a catchy one, actually. Like, the chorus of that's obviously is quite a memorable one. So yeah, I'd say like start listening to like even listen to some of that music, and like listen to the words of it as well, I'd say. And that, I think that'll plant a seed that will easily help you kind of know that.
Good stuff. Well,
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Have you got your guitar with you?
Oh yes, I do.
All right, could you give a little wee tune before we finish?
Aye.
See, before you start, right? See, when you become famous, you're looking for a drummer in particular. Okay, use a shot.
Okay.
Only when you're in stadiums and stuff like that.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a song, actually. I think one that I think I've always kind of held in high regard was Jesus, All for Jesus, and I think you'll probably know that one. So I'll just give you that one. So obviously, if you're listening along to it, you might know it or you may not know it, but it's obviously just a song that tells us about giving our ambitions to Him, which I think given what I'm talking about, like during this whole chat actually is quite a worthy way to like finish this off, to be honest.
Great choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus, oh for Jesus, Lord. Jesus, oh for Jesus, Lord, I never want to. Oh, my ambitions, hopes, and plans, I surrender to your hands. All my ambitions, hopes, and plans, I surrender to your hands. For it's only that I am free. For it's only you will that I am free. Jesus, all for
Jesus.
all I have never for it's only your will that I am free. For it's only you will that I am free. Jesus, oh for Jesus, Lord, I am never
Well done. Excellent. That's a
Excellent. You cut a wee bit here, but it was still excellent. It was still,
great.
still brilliant. Well done, well done. Great stuff. Brilliant.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure to sit and speak to you and learn a wee more about you.
Yeah.
But
No, you did really well. Great answers. Brilliant answers. A lot of stuff that I didn't know that I wasn't aware of has been a great education for me as well. So it's been brilliant. Really good.
Pleasure's been all night. Honestly, it's been a blast. Honestly, I've absolutely loved it.
Good. Well,
Thank you for having me. Honestly,
We'll maybe get your sister on and your brother on in the future. We might even get your granny on once she perfects this.
Well, thank you. Well, we've been really enjoyed hearing Matthew James on, and it's just been great to hear a younger man's perspective on Christianity and life and music, and it's just been wonderful. Thank you. But next week, just to do another wee advert, next week we've got Marvin Andrews, would you believe? Very famous ex-Elgin City player. Okay, he played with a Glasgow team and all, but sorry, he played for Glasgow Rangers, but he played for
Clyde as well.
Oh, did he? Oh.
He played for Livingston, Clyde. I think he played for Dundee United. He's played for about a dozen teams, I think. But he's more famous for his time at Rangers, for he.
Yeah. But one of my questions for him is, in his time at Glasgow Rangers, one of my questions I can't wait to ask him is, how did it feel to play against the mighty Glasgow Celtic? How did that affect your life? So anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to Marvin. So anyway, thank you for joining us, and thank you again, Matthew James, for coming on and just being a blessing. It's been really good.
Really good.
We shall catch you later. Okay.
Thank you very much now. Thanks now.
Catch you later, guys. Bye.
Bye now. Thank you. Right. Bye.